So when I first heard about 9/11, I was actually in Orlando, Florida with my wife and two baby girls. We were going to Disney World. I was actually at a conference, and as I was leaving the conference that Tuesday morning, I remember distinctly, I was walking towards the hotel where my wife and kids were on Polynesian Resort right there on Disney World. And she's motioning to me, hey, come in, watch the news. Somebody has hit the World Trade Center, an airplane has hit the World Trade Center. My first thought was, who would hit the World Trade Center with an airplane? It was just, so reality was like, just trying to sink in what was happening. So I went inside to my wife and kids in this hotel room and were literally watching, transfixed on the television as the second plane hits the second World Trade Center tower. And then we're starting to realize this is not just some freak accident. The world just changed. As we started realizing, and the world's figuring this out together, that this is a terrorist attack on our nation. And I knew that we were developing technologies at that time to protect buildings like the one that collapsed, for instance, against big attacks. So I knew that not only ERDIC's mission would change, the military's mission would change, really the world's mission. Later it was called the Global War on Terror, was going to change, and ERDIC was going to be a big part of that. So it really changed everything about ERDIC. And it certainly did change. It changed the world, and it changed ERDIC along with it. So when 9/11 hit, of course, it wasn't just the World Trade Center towers, it was also an attack on the Pentagon itself. And the airplane hit the side of the Pentagon and blew up and killed over 100 people in the Pentagon itself. What we didn't realize that day was the effect of some of the research that we had done in ERDIC and how many lives it had saved that day. So by 1983, when the Marines in Beirut, Lebanon were attacked in their barracks, we started studying asymmetric threats, basically blast on buildings. And so we had developed some technologies that would save soldiers and other people from basically blast on buildings from like truck bombs and that kind of threat. So that technology, as it turns out, was being built into the walls of the Pentagon. They were actually renovating the Pentagon. The Corps had built the Pentagon during World War II. It was 50 years old in the 90s. So we were upgrading it, and in the process of upgrading the Pentagon, we were building that technology into the walls of the Pentagon. So when the airplane actually hit the Pentagon, it split an area between an area that had been retrofitted and an area that had not been retrofitted. So when the wings of the airplane, which were full of fuel, when they hit the side of the Pentagon, they blew up like a truck bomb. And the area that had been retrofitted, it saved hundreds of lives on that side. The area that tragically that had not been retrofitted yet, more people were lost because we just hadn't gotten to that area yet. So it was rewarding to see that lives were actually saved that day from the technology that we developed for an entirely different reason, actually ended up saving lives that day in the Pentagon. So that fall, like right after 9/11, everybody's thinking, how did this happen? Who are the bad guys? So as we were discovering that, and we found out it was a terrorist attack originating in the Middle East, the whole United States military started focusing on, let's go get the bad guys. And so ERDIC, just like the rest of the Army, started gearing up towards projecting that fight over there, finding the enemy, getting them, and basically fighting what became the longest war in our history, just ending this year, 20 years later. And so we, over a period of time, ramped up tremendously with technologies focused on, as IEDs became a big problem, for instance, once we got over there, finding IEDs and mitigating IEDs and protecting our soldiers against attacks from rockets, artilleries, mortars, as we started building base camps over there. So all sorts of technology started focusing on the war on terror in Iraq and Afghanistan. All kinds of people deployed over to Afghanistan and Iraq. ERDIC people, Corps of Engineers people, civilians from across the nation deployed over there in support of our military. And we actually made a difference in protecting our soldiers and fighting the enemy in Afghanistan and Iraq. So at that time in our history, so this was 2001, we had just formed in 1998 as an ERDIC. But what 9/11 did for us was it galvanized us in purpose and mission. And it ramped us up tremendously. Now the whole nation was at war. and we were fighting this war on terror. And we had a lot to bring to the fight. Every lab, every person in ERDIC had a sense of urgency and purpose in delivering this mission. So everything we do today is really in memory of those who died on that day. Over 2,000 people in the United States lost their lives that day. We fought a war now for 20 years addressing that very fact. The world changed, everything we do in ERDIC changed. It galvanized us, it focused on that mission, and today we're stronger and better because of it. The nation is stronger and better. It was a very, very tragic day, and we honored the lives of those who died that day and since then in the war. Over 2,000 soldiers and civilians have died in the war. But we're a safer world, I believe, as a result of what we've done in response to 9/11, what we had to do, and then what we've done in the ERDIC to support that mission.